Hello, BookTube. All right, we're doing 12.7 Q&A, and we're at part 3, and we're up to Alan Black, who has a barrage of questions. Number 1, do you like the song Wuthering Heights by Kate Bush? Yes. Number 2, do you think Boris Johnson will resign? No. Number 3, I recently finished If This Gets Out by Sophie Gonzalez and K.L. Dietrich. I found it to be one of the better written YA novels, but the romance LGBT relationship part fell flat for me. Did you write a review on this website, on your website, or anywhere else I could read it? If no, what were your thoughts on the book? My thoughts echo yours quite a bit. I thought it was really well done. But I didn't for a minute believe that the characters were in love with each other. So I think that's what you're talking about, is that you would seem like, it's a YA romance. You would think that element would be crucial. But I thought that element was almost completely unrealized. It's flat as a pancake, and yet the book was really well done. So I think we'd be in almost complete agreement on that. Question number 4. Sorry for the have you read, but have you read The Book of the Dun Cow by Walter Wanger? Well, you're not sorry enough. If you're asking me, have you read question, I have. Yes. I like it quite a bit. Andrew Russell. I've recently started to read Alex Haley's Roots and find it rather unengaging and slow-paced, to say the least. Oh, my brother. Do you have any thoughts on this work and Alex Haley as an author? For a long time, probably 10, 15, 20 years, it was completely impermissible in the Church of the Republic of Letters to say that Roots is a boring book. It might still be, for all I know, but for different reasons. In the 21st century, the reasons would be different, but I sympathize completely. It's a slog. Everything he wrote is a slog. But that most of all. Because I think with that book, he seriously thought that he didn't need to worry about commercial considerations. And that's always deadly to a hack. That has to be foremost in their minds, or you get the worst instead of the best. CVBN457, question number 20. Steve, what is the most valuable comic that you own? Mine is probably Preacher number 1. I wouldn't have any idea. I have no idea what the values are. I'm assuming that the comic book value, the collecting comic book industry, doesn't just go by age. Right? I'm sure there are key issues, Holy Grail issues, things like that. They'd be far more valuable than, for instance, X-Men number 4 or something like that. I have a lot of very old Marvel and DC comics, things going back to the 1950s, and I'm sure that theoretically some of those would be valuable. They're not in any kind of shape. I use my comics, I read them, I'm very hard on my stuff. So I don't know. I'd have to go through my long boxes and find the oldest issue I have that's in the best condition. Maybe that would be. I don't know. I wouldn't even be able to guess. I really wouldn't. I have the first appearance of Galactus, but those issues are battered to pieces because I love that story, so I keep reading it. I think Vita's dreaming. I think my baby's dreaming. I have, like, for instance, issue number 4 of the original Marvel run of Conan the Barbarian, the Tower of the Elephant. I have issue number 4 of the Marvel Silver Surfer, where he fights Thor. I love those issues, but it shows. There's a great old issue of Green Lantern where he decides to rid the world of evil. It's very old. I have old Superboy and Adventure comics, the old Superman comics and World's Finest issues that I don't think I could tell. You'd have to go through my collection and find out. Let's see here. Anastasia B says, Steve, what are your thoughts on what appears to be the proliferation of pseudo-intellectuals and fake readers? What do you think is behind it? It seems that they are everywhere nowadays, on television, on BookTube, StudyTube. Yes. You already know that I like to assign villainy. I like to assign the role of lead villains. And when you look at BookTube, if I just concentrate on BookTube, several of these pseudo-intellectual fake readers have made it very clear to anyone who looks at BookTube that you can become independently wealthy by doing that. You won't always do it. It won't always work, but it is possible for Jack Edwards to get 1 million subscribers. Jack Edwards having 1 million subscribers means he doesn't need to have a job ever again, as long as YouTube exists. He doesn't need to make a single other video. He could just leave it the way it is, and he wouldn't need to have a job to make his rent and other expenses. And there are plenty of other booktubers who blazed that trail before him and have done that, have proven that you can do that. And it's been my experience that the only way you can get a number like that is to be fake. It's the only way, is because otherwise your personality, your real personality, will off-put at least a fraction of the people who come to your videos. The only way you'll avoid that is if you change your personality into some sort of, squishy Smurf, some sort of toy. Helps if you're cute or good looking. So in answer to your question, the reason for the proliferation of this or anything else is that people think there's money involved. If there's money, then things will proliferate. More and more people will take their chances. I don't like it any more than you do. Ann P. says, hey, Steve, a few videos ago you were willing to bet on a Boston cream pie. Yes, I often am. A quick internet search gives me very different pictures. What is the ultimate cream pie? The ultimate cream pie is a Boston cream pie. Are they better than Oreos? Yes. Is this Stevian wordplay or is it an actual expression used by others? I don't know if it's used by others. Several of my expressions are solely mine. Let's see here. Chris Bianchi says, let's see here. I always appreciate your Q&As, but thank you. What are your 2 favorite Western films? 2 favorites. 2 favorites of them all. It would probably be The Shootist and Rooster Cogburn, 2 late John Wayne movies. Did you enjoy Searching for John Ford, A Life by Joseph McBride? It's a long one. Yeah, it is. I really liked it. Please tell me you did too. I really liked it. Do you think Porterhouse Blue by Tom Sharp is worth the read? Sure. Have you had many encounters with wolves throughout your life? Yes, I have. Chrisam70 says, where is the best place that you have ever camped out with the pack along? I honestly couldn't rank. There have been many, many, many such places. In general terms, back then, one active part of best would be temperate. We camped in a lot of places that were inhumanly cold, and we camped in a lot of places that were unbelievably hot. So a temperate place, and maybe a temperate place with a little less of a potential for blood-curdling violence at any random moment, maybe something like that. So for instance, camping in some of the Nordic countries in late summer, something like that, as opposed to camping in the temperate American Northwest or the American Plains, where the weather is just fine. You've got plenty of access to water, but you've also got roaming 1-ton grizzly bears. You never know when you're gonna one of those is gonna ruin the day. Bass Van Dyke says, "Hey Steve, what is your opinion on the Nicolas Cage movie Pig that came out last year?" Don't think I saw it. And more in general, what is your opinion on Nicolas Cage as an actor? Oh, come now. Oh, come now. He's a joke. As a punchline, I like him just fine. Jack O'Hara says, how do you watch movies from Hollywood's golden age? I find that very few of them are available online for free, and you either have to rent them or buy a DVD, both of which seem ancient things to do. Is that so? I wasn't aware that it was hard to see these things. I have e-files of a lot of them, or quite a few of them, that I don't ever get to. Are streaming services not good for that? Are they not? Was that one of your? You said rent them or buy them on DVD. So Hollywood Golden Age movies are not on any streaming service. They're not on Paramount Plus or Amazon or Netflix. That's the place I would automatically think to go. Shelf Life. Trigger warning for a Steve rant. Thoughts on Rebecca Solnit? No trigger warning. No rant. I like her fine. Frederick has a barrage of questions. Thoughts on Revolt Against the Modern World by Julius Evola. Now, Julius Evola, I do not get this author. I know he has a devoted fan base, to put it mildly. But I've read a couple of his books, and I think this was one of them, and I did not understand what he was blabbering on about. Thoughts on Julius Evola, there you go. Thoughts on Walkable City by Jeff Speck. I liked it. Do you think the United States has a realistic chance of building a good high-speed railway network in the near future? No. Gagging Forlit says, what do you think of Two Paradise by Hanya Yanagihara and Red Comet by Sylvia Plath, the Sylvia Plath biography? I loved Red Comet. Two Paradise I thought was inept, weak, a failure. I can't find the videos where you talked about them. And also, have you read any of the British author Gwendolyn Riley? I think you would possibly like Joshua Spassky by her. Don't think I know that name at all. CVBN457 with his 20th question. Steve, do you enjoy heavy metal music? No. Who is your favorite band? I don't know any of them well enough to know. There are 3 rules. There are 3 rules when you get to be the ripe old age of 28. I am always hungry. I am always cold, and the music is always too loud. So a kind of music that's sole reason for existence is loudness. It's going to leave me right out of the tent, right out. And then you want to recommend a song, but the only reason that it would make any sense is if I played the music, and the music would be too loud. By definition, it would be. Heavy metal is the only type of music that's like that, where if it's not loud, it doesn't exist. That it just vanishes if it doesn't have that quality, no matter what other qualities it has. And I can't do that. Nick Piccarilli says, "What are some prominent examples of the sophomore slump?" I was thinking of this the other day, because critics and readers always invoke it, and I'm hard pressed to think of an example. I know there are plenty out there. I want to say something like Bret Easton Ellis or Jay McInerney, but I'm hoping that it'd be something other than this literary brat pack. I'm hoping that there'd be other examples. I'll have to come up with a list. Nathan J says his name is Penis. I think that's mainly because he wants me to say that, which is kind of adolescent. I hope this isn't too personal, but I wonder if you have ever felt anything more with a dog, i.e. romantic. I hope this isn't too personal, but have you ever shagged a dog? That isn't too personal. How much more personal could it get? That's not too personal a question. Are you a virgin? Not too personal a question. How much more personal can it get? Also, I know this is gross, but it never made complete sense to me why bestiality is illegal, but animal agriculture, which is far worse, is legal and rewarded. I think both are wrong, but I wonder why one of them is stigmatized and the other isn't. Well, first of all, you put quotes around the word more. If I ever felt more with an animal, i.e. romantic, animals don't have that concept at all. The concept that's in your mind when you type the word more and then put quotes around it, they don't have that concept at all. Which means, to get to your bigger question, that it's not possible to have that relationship with them consensually. And all non-consensual relationships are wrong. I think the reason why it is stigmatized is because of that. It's because, well, it's stigmatized from ancient human proto-memory because it's a really good way to get sick and to communicate that sickness to the rest of the tribe. But in modern societies where that isn't so much an issue, it is an issue, and it is an issue in fairly recent times, relatively speaking, geologically speaking. Look up, I won't gross you out, but I think the reason for the dichotomy that you mentioned here is because of that. It's because it's not possible for an animal to consent to a sexual relationship with a human. Humans don't conceive of it the same way. There's no concept that equates to that more in quotation marks. And so the animal can't agree. And that's why it's stigmatized. And animals that are involved in animal agriculture don't agree either. And the reason why, the difference is that an animal who is penned up and tortured and then executed doesn't want any of those things to happen. Those are concepts that they understand. They don't want to be tortured. They don't want to live in misery. They don't want to live, in a constant slow rain of urine and feces from the person who's kept in the cage directly above them. They don't want to go to sleep, try to sleep, standing up or squatting down on chain link. They don't want to be systematically brutalized and tortured. They don't want that. They understand what those things are completely well, and they don't want it. So, in the case of animal agriculture, the people who do it, who go into the abattoirs, who go into the pens, they know perfectly well that the animals don't want what they're doing, and they do it anyway out of just being deadened. I'm a superior animal. I have the ability to do this to you, so I will do it because I get paid at the end of the week, and I've got a family back home, and I'm trying to pay for my kids' braces. So if I have to rip your beak off, I've got 500 of you in a row. My work shift is to pull the beaks off all of you. If I have to do that to get that paycheck for those braces, I will. That's just might makes right. That's just humans being in a position to do that and just saying that's why I will do it. And to hell with whether or not the animal understands what's happening and doesn't want it to happen. So what I'm saying is both are bad, but they are bad for different reasons. In the case of bestiality, it's that the animal can't agree. fundamentally, just conceptually, can't agree. So it's inherently wrong. whereas in animal agriculture, the animal does agree that this thing is wrong and has no choice at all. They're just I don't know if that made any sense, but I'm hoping that it did. How are we doing for time? Oh, we're fine. Justin Raymond says, "Hey, hi Steve. If you were president and there was nothing obstructing you, what 3 major policies would you implement to help better the lives of the American people?" It's a fantasy, of course, right? So you're inviting me to play, and that's fine. My foremost answer, I jotted down some policies here, but my foremost thing would be to put people other than me in that spot. I shouldn't be in that spot. Mark Richardson should be in that spot. There are a whole bunch of people I know, have known in my life, who should be in that spot. So the first thing I would do if that spot existed would be to fill it with somebody else. But I did jot down 3 things here that would incontestably make life better for American citizens. Number 1 is eliminate the Electoral College. Those of you who aren't from America, maybe aren't up on your American history, the Electoral College is a 200-year-old relic that guarantees that the voice of the people will never be completely heard. It should be gone. It does no good at all. It is a means by which candidates who did not get the majority of votes can still be in office, can get elected and reelected. Any means that is there to anything that does that should be gone, should be eliminated. So that's number 1. Number 2 is make all state colleges free for residents of that state. So if you're a resident of Idaho, the state of Idaho, you've got a community college down the road, you show them your residency proof, and you get your tuition, you get your books, you get the teachers who are on staff and who are funded by that state's government money. So they aren't cast-offs, they aren't, old alcoholics that can't get a job anywhere else. You get a good education at that school and it doesn't cost you a dime. That'd be thing number 2. So thing number 1, eliminate the Electoral College. Thing number 2, all state colleges are free for residents. And thing number 3 is never going to happen. It should be the first thing that happened. Go to the Pentagon. Tell them to open their books. Right there, that would get you killed. And I don't mean, oh my God, they would mob you so bad on social media. I mean that the lieutenant at the desk, when you made that request, would shoot you in the hallway, dead. American citizen. He would shoot you dead. Just asking for that. It's a fantasy. You're asking me to play along. So go to the Pentagon. Get them to open their books to you. Pick 14 redundant missile systems. In other words, missile systems that are still being bought, they're still being paid for, they're still being rolled out and manufactured with all that means in terms of personnel and warehouses and equipment. Take 14 of those systems, and I mean only the redundant ones, only the ones where there are plenty of other exactly the same systems. Take 14 of those missile systems and liquidate them and funnel that money into a general fund from which every single American citizen, man, woman, and child, gets a check direct deposited in their bank account for $1 million. Every single one of them. Every single person in the country. Liquidate 14 redundant missile systems. Don't hurt our defense posture at all. Take 14 redundant missile systems. Liquidate the money they tie down in one fiscal year, which would be something like $370 million at least, and divvy it up. $1 million for every man, woman, and child in the country. So those are 3 things right there. Although keep in mind, the first thing I would do would be to put somebody else in that job. Somebody we all know we can trust. Somebody who would make really good decisions and do them for a long time. Let's see here. Angela Gray says, "Hi from Scotland. I have 2 questions. Well, I have one for you. Is there going to be a Scottish Brexit?" The perennial question. Does Scotland want its independence? But anyway, I know you're a fan of picture books, but what about middle grade? See, the thing I love about picture books is not only I've read them to kids, and I love doing that, but also that the really good ones speak right directly to adults as well. And middle school books always seem to me to have got to the point where they're just directed at the age of the recipient. And they sort of leave me out. But I know a lot of adults don't feel that way. I enjoy the channel Spread Book Joy, where Jack talks enthusiastically about them. I don't know this channel. I'll go and subscribe. Also, what are your thoughts on Barbara Kingsolver? Oh my, that's not for Q&A. I have lots of thoughts about Barbara Kingsolver. Lots and lots. Not only about her individual books, but also about what she says about the American publishing industry. And it's the sort of things that it needs to do in order to justify its money structure. Oh, I could go on at great length. And it wouldn't be anything negative to Barbara Kingsolver. I wouldn't be attacking her at all. It's just she's a fruitful subject. I'll have to make a video on it. Steve Gilhool says, "Do you know what the deal is with characters in books having gray eyes?" You noticed, did you? They all do. I've seen 0 people with gray eyes in real life, yet I've lost count of how many times I've read about some character with gray eyes. Yes, indeed. Every new novel, for any age, every new novel. Is this an allusion to gray-eyed Athena? It most certainly is not. Authors are dumb. They don't know anything about gray-eyed Athena. Is it some collective literary tic? It's a collective literary tic. Yeah, absolutely. Or am I just taking crazy pills? Since you've read every book I've written and you're wise beyond your 28 years, I thought you might be able to clear it up for me. You cleared it up yourself. It's a literary tic. Authors of novels are prone to them. They are ninnies. So any bandwagon they will jump on. Hence the absolute ubiquity of autofiction. Yeah, gray eyes. Instead of blue or green, gray eyes. Yeah, that's nice and cool. Omnipotent Poobah has 2 questions. Number 1, as a non-American, I can't understand why, given it is roughly a year and a half since January 6, 2001, Donald J. Trump is not only wearing an orange jumpsuit, but still largely in the running for a hard-of-thinking voters Republican nominee in 2024. Please, can you take a deep breath and explain it very slowly to the slower pupils on this side of the Atlantic? It's easy to understand on one level, and utterly baffling on all other levels. The easy way to understand it is that America is a Nazi majority country. Well over 150 Americans believe in fascist rule. This is a Nazi majority country. That is the broader explanation for why nothing has been done about the fact that Donald Trump planned, orchestrated, incited a violent insurrection to overthrow the United States government, annul a legal election, execute his sitting vice president, and install himself illegally in power, presumably for the rest of his life. That is a federal crime, not only in Washington, D.C., where it happened, but in America. And it's not like you need to lay out the January 6th Select Committee's evidence. We all saw it. Everyone in the world saw it happen. It is a prima facie case. Donald Trump is prima facie, on its face, guilty, and should have been arrested on that day and executed the following week. Instead, as you say, he is a prominent figure who's going to be allowed to run for office in 2024, even though he's made it completely clear he's not interested in the office of president. That isn't the office he'll be running for. A republic that has the ability to stop such a thing and doesn't is signing its own death warrant. So, to answer for the slower pupils on the other side of the Atlantic, this is America committing suicide. The political party that is in power now has the power to stop this, and it isn't doing it. It isn't doing it. That is suicide. That is suicide. It's think about if you have your normal body and a cancer is detected in your stomach or your lungs, and it's detected early. No one says, well, there are a whole bunch of people here in this hospital that sort of believe in that cancer. So we're going to see if it'll behave itself. A cancer is a mindless thing. It only knows how to do one thing. And that one thing will eventually kill you. If you don't cut it out, you're signing your own death warrant. Anyway. You had a second question. I hope will be less explosive. Number 2, just finished Simon Schama's Citizen, Citoyen. At the risk of asking a very open-ended question, what is your preferred account of the French Revolution? I'm looking for a more recent, fresher take. I don't understand why people look for more recent or fresher takes. The French Revolution, in case you didn't know, is over. So, I don't know why more recent would matter at all. I don't know why more recent or fresher would matter at all. It matters how good the author assembles the material and presents it to you. You could go to Thomas Carlyle's book on the French Revolution and never have a better reading experience, and it's 100 years old. I would recommend R.R. Palmer wrote a book called The World of the French Revolution. It's out of print, but it's very good. But it's older than the Schama book. I don't understand that, and so I don't know of anything fresher or a newer take that I can offer. The French Revolution is over, so I would recommend Palmer's book, The Coming of the French Revolution. I would certainly recommend Thomas Carlyle's book, The French Revolution. Oxford World Classics used to make a really nice little, it's a big book, but a paperback of it that you might be able to find used. But nothing newer that comes to my mind, no. Aviation Club 172, how are we doing for time? Oh, in fact, we're going to finish. This will be 3. We'll do this in 3. Aviation Club 172 has a barrage of questions. Number 1, what are your thoughts on ethics in war photography / photojournalism? I've never understood it. I've never understood it. If you're there and you're taking a photo of some kid who's dying of starvation, needs a doctor, an ambulance right away, or a kid who's pinned down by gunfire and you have a van, I've never understood the justification of photojournalism that says it's important to get the record even if the person dies. I've never got that at all. I don't understand that with wildlife photography either, where you're filming with your telephoto lens as an animal is brutally murdered by another animal, brutally killed, when a word from you, a simple snapping of a twig, would stop it from happening, give that animal another day or maybe another year of life. I've never understood that either. I don't get it. If there's a valid case to be made, it certainly doesn't resonate with me. Number 2, do you recommend The Penguin History of the World? I certainly do. Number 3, do you recommend Will Durant's The Story of Civilization? I certainly do. I certainly do. Talk about the absence of a need for a thing to be newer or fresher. Those Will Durant volumes are fantastic. And if you have a hard time finding them, I can find them for you. I'm sure that I can. Number 4, have you enjoyed your travels in South America? Yes. In large part, yes. There are some parts that are hell, but that's true in almost anywhere. So, but yeah, in large part, yeah. And then finally, we'll finish up with Anthony Hodges, who has 2 questions. Number 1, have you ever watched a cricket match? If so, do you feel regret that the USA shamefully rejected this fine sport? I have watched a cricket match, yes. I went in the company of a wonderful group of people when I was living in, where was it? It was in Kent, somewhere. I was staying with a family in Kent. We went to a cricket match. I said, I don't know anything about it. Just leave me here. I'll read in the library all day. And they said, no, you have to come along. So we went along and set up our seats, and there was a whole bunch of people milling around. Some of them had bats in their hands. Some of them had, shin guards on. Some of them didn't. They were just sort of milling around. And then the crowd, the people that were all gathered on the periphery, started yelling and screaming. And that was the only way I knew that the game had started. It was still people milling around. So I didn't get it before, I didn't get it during, I didn't get it after. In terms of America not adopting cricket, well, when it comes to, boring, nonsensical sports, we've got baseball. So we're covered in that regard. And number 2, which sport do you believe has the best literary canon? Thank you, my favorite bookworm. I don't know if I'm your favorite now that I've blackened the name of cricket. But when it comes to, best literary canon, first of all, I don't know the huge literary canon that exists around both cricket and rugby. I don't know. I know there is a large literary canon around both of them, and I don't know it at all. So my answer would be largely constricted to American sports. And in American sports, the standard answer is baseball. The aforementioned maligned baseball. It's such a slow, boring, sedentary game that it prompts everybody in the audience to start writing because they've got to amuse themselves somehow. But in addition to that, another strong contender would be boxing, that I think has a very, very strong literary tradition. I don't think that literary tradition is really carried forward now. I think it sort of ended in the 1960s and the 1970s. I think it ended mainly with the active career of Muhammad Ali. But before then, it was an incredibly vigorous literary tradition. So it might be boxing. But anyway, that is actually the end of the questions as far as I know. If I limited your question, again, sorry, it's just inadvertent. It wasn't that I was editing anything or skipping intentionally. So we'll wrap things up and wait around for 12.8 Q&A. In the meantime, though, of course, I want to end the Q&A the same way that I always do, by thanking you all, not just for all of the great questions, but for being here, for finding this channel and sticking around. That's absolutely wonderful. I might joke about it, but I love it. So I'm going to wrap this up, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.